Wisp, the Ethereal Support warframe, known by many for her reservoirs to increase health, crowd control capabilities and attack speed. But with stealth multipliers, invincibility iFrames, teleportation, debuffing the enemies and crowd control capabilities on top of buffing allies, join me as we delve deeper to find out more. Alrighty, now we got the intro out of the way, let's get down to the build. And right, well, for start off, you can see these guys are level 2140 coming up here, and well, I mean, we're just carving them up like they're level 60s. I mean, it's great, scaling damage is insane, and well, I'm going to be showing you how to achieve this all on your own. And when I say on your own, I really mean it. This is 136 minutes into a solo Kuva survival with a level 534 Kuva Guardian that's having a bit of a disagreement with me. It's safe to say he's going to lose this argument. So onward to the example, and just to quickly showcase that the mods in my builds are the exact same ones in the examples. So as we're going to be spawning a level 135 Corrupted Heavy Gunners without invincibility on, we're popping our reservoirs to maintain our buffs. We're going to be using the Mutilus Cernos here to strip a bit of armor, while Will-O-Wisp is active for invisibility and stealth multipliers, and then the Breach Surge to debuff enemies with incredible damage potential. Now with the gas damage proccing a lot more projectiles to just absolutely mince through these enemies. It's crazy damage, and well, it seems to scale pretty goddamn high, I'll tell you that much. So the trick to surviving with this build is to use Will-O-Wisp as a means of invisibility, as while it's casting outward and that timer is on, you are invisible. And if you wanted to teleport instantly to it, you also have an invincibility iframe where you cannot be harmed, where your health is grey. Now just quickly look here as I showcase you a little extra that you can add to this setup to increase your damage potential and CC capability, with the Void Singularity here pulling enemies in, and of course, if you hadn't have guessed it already, Mage's Lockdown for even more scaling damage. If you have 4 people with Corrosive Projection and you have Mage's Lockdown on top of the amount of damage you're doing with Breach Surge, I mean, the enemies just get absolutely destroyed. Moving on, let's have a look at the Wisp setup itself and see what I've been working on. So we have Corrosive Projection in the Aura slot to strip armor for the team, with Vigilante Pursuit for enemy radar to see spawns on the map. It's super useful, especially in conjunction with Primed Animal Instinct on your companion. We have Umbral Intensify and Transient Fortitude. You can swap out the Umbral one for a standard if you don't want to use so much Former, but I wanted to push the setup as much as possible. This increases your reservoir and your Breach Surge damage and your buffs from your reservoir. We also have Prime Continuity and Narrow-Minded to counter that Transient Fortitude and increase our Will-O-Wisp's invisibility duration, which is really useful for endurance runs. That's how you're going to survive. We have Primed Flow for additional energy and Natural Talent so that we can cast Breach Surge quick as possible, along with Stretch and Auger Reach in order to gain an additional range on our Breach Surge. Bearing in mind as well your Will-O-Wisp, if positioned right, you can cast Breach Surge and it will cast a second one wherever your Will-O-Wisp is, which is really useful to gain more ground for the debuffs. I'm using Arcane Energize and Arcane Strike for my preferred setup. However, if you don't have Strike, you could possibly try Arcane Fury as a sound enough option as a replacement. As for our main source of damage, we're going to be using a status focus Plague Kripa for this build. So I've chosen Prime Pressure Point for core damage, with Prime Reach for additional range, Prime Fever Strike to bolster those gas damage, and Condition Overload of course to get our damage even higher with those status procs. We have Volcanic Edge for gas and Virulent Scourge to bolster that status chance and gas damage even higher, Drifting Contact for a bit of combo duration and more status chance, and Berserker for attack speed here, because we have enough crit there so that we can proc the Berserker. There's also Exodia Hunt on here, but it's not really that important for the build. Later on in the setup, I do use a Riven that increases my damage and range, and you could possibly, if you have something like this setup, you could even put on Blood Rush, or just put on Fever Strike for even more damage as well. but happy rolling if you do have a Kripa ribbon. As for our secondary, we're going to be using the pox to strip armor. I have covered this weapon before, but it's so useful at endurance runs that it's kind of hard to ignore. We have Hornet Strike for core damage. We're going to be using Scorch, Jolt and Pistol Pestilence for our status chance and corrosive and heat procs. We have Fulmination to increase the toxin clouds, and Barrel Diffusion and Lethal Torrent for multi-shot with additional fire rate and lethal torrent, and Pistol Ammo Mutation to maintain our ammo pool. As for our primary weapon, we have the Mutilus Cernos to leave lingering corrosive clouds in the midst of enemies. So we have Serration for core damage, with Split Chamber and Vigilante Armaments for more multi-shot, and that Vigilante set bonus. We have Stormbringer for additional elemental damage, and we have Point Strike to get our crit chance up to 37.5%. We have 100% status with this build with the 2 dual stat mod cards, which also give us corrosive as well. That's going to help strip armor. We have Vigilante Fervor, which I use to, well, for the set bonus, and of course so that I can cast that bow like a little quicker, which I kind of like. If you find your comfort zone without this, maybe try Hunter Munitions to try your look at some slash procs, or maybe add a Riven. Personally though, I like this setup. So some playstyle tips for you. You are going to be wanting to cast your Will-O-Wisp near enough all the time so that you have, you know, that invisibility up for your stealth multipliers. This is going to increase your damage and your survivability potential. This doesn't mean that a stray rocket from a bombard or a napalm flame can still kill you instantly during endurance runs, and this is just something you're going to have to try and anticipate and counter. Now you can like double tap your Will-O-Wisp to gain an invincibility iFrame, which I find really useful to pass through sort of napalm grenades and all sorts of that jazz, which do bearing in mind that positioning of your Wisp actually might help you as well in gaining more ground with your Breach Surge, which is a really powerful ability for both you and your team to increase damage potential. Also guys, if you are new to the channel and you're unaware of the sort of style of videos, I just showcase weapons and warframe synergies with unusual setups, as unusual as I can make them anyway, while still being fun and viable, and maybe something that you might not have thought of, or maybe you have and you're using a similar setup. By all means, these are all just my opinions and I just like to entertain you guys. It seems that the content seems to be growing and I can't thank all of you enough. And while we're on the note of thanking people, special thanks go to Drewski, XSAS, Fruity Ninja, Maximum Groffit, Tigro HD, KSI Tyrion, and Irvin7X for all your participation. You know what you did, you juicy red quitting bastards, and thank you again. Now, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below or join the Discord if you want a more interactive discussion. I'll leave a link down in the description down below. And by all means, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. It helps me a great deal, and of course you will get to see the content as soon as it comes out if you hit that notification button. On top of this, I am going to be leaving some gameplay now of a rather intense 180-minute survival into the Kuva Fortress. Once again, thank you to the team for helping me achieve these endurance runs, as it can be quite tedious on your own. Do enjoy the rest of the video, and thank you for watching. Ciao for now.